It doesn't seem to me that Jeff Bezos, when he started Amazon, was interested in burning money. And yet that is exactly what seems to be happening in a honey of a deal for the crazy wokesters who are running J.R.R. Tolkien's works right into the ground. Today we're talking about Rings of Power Season 2, and they've got more than a few crazy, zany ways of destroying the legacies of yore. Hello folks, welcome back to the place that explains entertainment, keeps you ahead of the culture curve, and you know what? If we need to go down to Middle Earth to do so, well, we're happy to do just that. Like Gandalf the White pushing back the forces of Sauron, here we are. And the only power that drives this all is you. Click that like button, folks, as we get ready to dive in. We've got a panel of absolute experts. And when I say experts, I mean we have some folks on here today on this panel who, if you asked me, top 10 people who understand Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, etc., they're in that top 10. Get ready. Let's dive in right now. Well, there's a lot of funding for this. There's not a lot of viewership for this. So the world has turned against this, and yet they just continue down the path because regardless of whether or not it's a success, that doesn't seem to be the intent behind the production of it. They don't really care, as best I can tell, if people tune in or tune out. They just are going to propagandize no matter what. So, Jonathan, is this what you're seeing? I mean, how was the first season received? And are you surprised that they're doubling, tripling down?
I'm not surprised because we've seen that in media for the last 6 or 7 years anyway. I am surprised that they actually got Hall H at Comic-Con. I've been to Comic-Con a few times back when it was fun. And I mean, that's a ton of people. I like, who would really go to see this? And so the whole idea that
it's a corporate event.
Yeah, I mean, it is a corporate event.
Is it Hall H where the Downey came out as well?
Yeah,
I think
it's huge. Yeah, usually, like, I'd go there and I'd have to wait all night essentially to get into Hall H to see the big things. And this was back when Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, I think, was there in 2001, 2002, 2003, and also in 2009 or so. And it's a great, a lot of fun with a lot of fans, although now I think it's completely different. And for them to come out here, I mean, here's the thing. What they do is they court only the fans that like them. And so they'll go to the OneRing.net, they'll go to all these different X accounts that promote them, Nerd of the Rings, things like that, not to throw any, but clearly these are guys who like them. And they will not court us. I will say, and I mentioned this to John on the Trent Report a little bit while back, that at the turn of the millennium, when they were making Lord of the Rings, New Line Cinema, even though our site, the OneRing.com, was known as the purest site, were you
Y2K ready?
We were Y2K ready. We had water in our bathtub just in case all the plumbing failed. But we were talking about how horrible parts of Lord of the Rings were. Like, we saw Arwen fighting and Arwen going to get Frodo and Saruman dying on a round spiky wheelie dealy thing. Right? We saw all this stuff, but New Line Cinema, they still talked to us. They still contacted us. They still invited us out to see the movies. They were very positive, and they didn't care. Like, they were like, look, we just want you to see the movies. Even if you dislike parts of it, that's fine, whatever. Just come out and see. We think we like what we've got. I have not heard anything ever from Amazon, right? And we're one of the top 2 Lord of the Rings sites on the internet, essentially, when it comes to people who visit it and look for things. So it's surprising that this is it. But this is it, right? They want to stay in their one lane because much as they say, like Star Wars with the Force is female, right? They have a goal, they have a message, and to hell with everything else. They don't want all the people around, all those, like Legal Mindset was saying, the incels that are around that actually like this stuff, because that's all they view us as. Because guess what? They've never talked with us. They've never spent the time with us. Whereas, and that you can blame social media, you can blame polarization, political. But in 2000, New Line Cinema was not like that at all. They engaged everybody, and I appreciated that. And now we don't get any engagement from Amazon at all on this.
And let me just say this: like, I for years I used to go to Dragon Con. I spent a lot of time in the high fantasy.
I've been there too. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tolkien track. They have a specific track for Tolkien, right? Because it's so popular. If you went to that panel 10 years ago, or you went to a Dragon Con 10 years ago, and you went to a Tolkien panel, you would see, this is far before Amazon, all this woke bullshit, whatever. It was super diverse. There were girls there. There were men, women, girls, boys, different races, people from different countries flying in. Right, the diversity was absolutely outstanding. You didn't need Amazon to provide that; it was already there. right? They came in assuming that everybody was this sort of person when that was absolutely categorically wrong. And unfortunately, there's certain places, and I don't want to, because this is your show, bro, not mine. I'll say it on my show, but there's certain people and certain websites that ran with Amazon that I'm wondering now that they ran with this initially, they just got on and jumped on the bandwagon and became the Amazon site. I'm wondering whether they regret that now because they've fallen so far away from Tolkien and so far away from the canon.
Well, that's what we have seen.
Let the past die, kill it if you have to, and that's exactly
I guarantee you, those sites don't regret it. I know them; they don't regret it. This is what
okay.
this has been their MO forever.
I'm not trying to slander anybody on somebody else's show. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, it's not slander to them. They just that's what they. I mean, look, we interviewed a guy. We interviewed a guy who wrote Tolkien in the 20th Century. His name is Nick Groom. He said to us in our interview last year, I think it came out last August. He loves anything with Tolkien in it. Anything you put his name on it. His favorite character, we asked him what his favorite character was. Tauriel from The Hobbit. The love story from with the dwarf, Feely or Keely, I can't remember which one because I've only seen The Hobbit twice. However, so there are people that you put Tolkien's name in it, or like the Rings of Power guys, you put Tom Bombadil in to completely change the character. They will still love it because somehow it gives them an endorphin rush to have the Tolkien name on it, even though they don't understand it, even though they don't get what Tolkien was all about, even though the stories that he wrote really are still so much better than anything these fan fiction writers will put out. But
I think it's conquered territory. That's the endorphin rush. It's conquered territory to them because they get the Tolkien name, but they don't have to obey the Tolkien rules. So that's where they're getting this. Yeah, they're getting their jollies by playing with the toys that you want to play with and take care of, and they're going to run them through feces. So that's the joy.
I'm tired of these Mother Tolkien nerds on this Mother Tolkien plane.
Love it.
It's a little bit of a stretch, but yes.
Oh man, and me, I'm just over here. I mean, I tolerate Tauriel because The Hobbit. I think that there are literally no female characters in there. There are women referenced in The Hobbit, but adding one woman, okay, I get it. But I tolerate most of that movie in order to have the riddles in the dark scene, which to me is just poetry. Andy Serkis and Martin Freeman there. I just look at all of this and I think about the people who have degraded themselves, who have made their entire careers being Tolkien. I'm trying really hard not to use a specific phrasing here. Tolkien scholars, that they will go and they will endorse this so that they can be the go-to resource, so that they can be the expert that everyone goes to for the Easter eggs and for the for those video reactions because they want to be a part of the fun train or whatever. These shows are a slog. The dialogue, I get it that they think they sound like Tolkien. I still think about that stupid line about rocks and boats, and I just think, wow, you really thought you were being profound there. You really thought you had something there. But that's not deep truth. That's being silly, as opposed to, I don't know, anything from Theoden or anything from Sam. These are pale shadows of actual good literature. And the farther we get away from it, it's a copy of a copy of a copy. And we just have a photocopied culture that Star Wars is there, Marvel is there. And Tolkien was not going for that commercialization. I'm going to say he tolerated commercialization. But the fact that they've spent $1 billion and they can't seem to figure out how to make a decent show, this is the biggest indictment of these people.
But Jonas, it's an embarrassment to commercialization because commercialization presumes profit. These people don't give a damn about profit. This is what's so infuriating. If they're at least making money, then you can defend it by, well, it's making money, right? So like clearly people are buying it, it's making money, even if you think as a critic it's hogwash. They're not making money. If Disney was making money, if Amazon's making money, we wouldn't have much of a case. Our case would kind of be garbage, right? But the point is that the viewership isn't there, the money isn't there, and certainly things like merchandising, video games, things that should be going gangbusters with a healthy intellectual property are completely absent.
Well, you think about how much people buy the Weta stuff right now. You can still see people selling Sting. That's the little sword, guys, for those of you who don't know. But nothing from Rings of Power is on the merch shelves. Nothing.
Size doesn't matter, James.
Well, and you know the other thing, Andrew, that's absolutely 100% right, and their egos carry them long after they should have noticed they're not making any money. Look at the stories out now that Amazon is suddenly realizing that this little box on my desk with the name that starts with A isn't a moneymaker. That 99% of the people that have it use it like I do as a kitchen timer and a weather report and maybe for music through Sirius. And that's it. And they thought it was going to lead to all of these wonderful orders and they would sell lots of stuff. And it's losing them money. But it's been doing it for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And they're just getting around to noticing, oops, we better cut back on the staffing on that. Why? Because, my God, Bezos thought of it and it must be wonderful. Tolkien thought of it. It must be wonderful. And therefore, no matter what we do, there is this time lag in realizing that they've gone off into territory that is not going to create any revenue. And oops, surprise, surprise. Just like shooting a movie 8 times over in reshoots because you didn't get it right from the beginning.
Yeah. What's really sad is that it's being empowered by the Tolkien estate and those who are running it now, right? Once Christopher Tolkien died, who honestly I didn't have a great relationship with because they copyright anyway, longer story at some point. But at least he was a diehard defender of his father and the works there. And now you have the grandchildren running. The further you get away from the original source, the more the great dollar sign will be looming in front of them to make these deals. And so, right, $250 million they sold the rights to the TV show for. And
well, Jonathan, this is something that I don't know anything about. So can you educate me? I know with the Disney grandchildren, for example, you've got some real nuts. And
yeah,
I don't know about the Tolkien grandchildren. I don't know about his offspring. I don't know where things have moved. Are they part of the woke movement? Are they supportive of this, or is this all about money? Like, what's the dynamic at play?
Well, they haven't exactly said that they're supportive of the movement, but by their actions, you can kind of tell. Even Simon Tolkien, Tolkien's grandson, said there was too much Lord of the Rings, too much of the book in the Lord of the Rings movies, right?
Oh.
It should have gone further afield. So that's the place they're coming from. And now with all his children, and his children and his children-in-law, Tolkien's children and children-in-law, they're all gone. So there's nobody controlling the Tolkien estate anymore, which holds all the rights that weren't originally sold by Tolkien. So for instance, Tolkien sold the movie rights, he sold the gaming rights back in the 60s, but no TV rights. That's why Amazon had to buy them from the Tolkien estate.
When he sold the gaming rights, did that cover video games? Even though video games didn't exist, did that get grandfathered in?
Apparently, yeah.
Okay.
It covered all that. So that was owned by a company named Tolkien Enterprises for the longest time, and they could license it out. And now it went back. They sold to Tolkien Enterprises. Tolkien Enterprises became part of the Embracer Group, which now is a parent to all these things. Middle Earth.
Hey, Jonas, next time we schedule guests, will you find somebody who knows something about the subject? This man clearly has no idea.
You know, it's occurring to me that we haven't said this entire time that Jonathan is from theonering.com. For those of us who, for those in the audience that might not understand.
It's right there in my Exploring Tolkien too. But yes, right. Yeah, no, I've been running theonering.com since 1999. So I was deep in the throes of everything going on with Lord of the Rings and Peter Jackson's films back then and everything since. But yeah, it's they're so far removed from Tolkien now that I think they're ready and willing to sell things on the way. It's interesting they haven't sold anything from the Silmarillion, the cosmology of Middle Earth, that book. Because there are many stories there, but at least they're holding that close to the vest. But
there was a rumor that Amazon did acquire the rights for season 2 here for the Silmarillion. Not sure if that's I don't think it's been confirmed, but there was a rumor, and I think that came from Fellowship of Fans, which has gotten because.
Well, here's the thing, though: if they just completely invent shit that's not in the Silmarillion, right, and they just go off. I think that would be unique IP, right? So,
which is what they have done, right?
Yeah,
right, which is what they have done historically.
With Hobbit,
they just made shit up,
or the Harfoots,
yeah. I mean, most of those rights, they're tied to the name. Like they cannot use Beren and Luthien, for instance, right? Which is Tolkien's favorite story, which was a story essentially like born out of seeing his wife dance in a hemlock grove in 1917, and so that. They are allowed certain rights. I haven't seen that confirmation, John, about
it's a rumor.
It's a rumor, yeah. But they are allowed to go to like Simon Tolkien and the Tolkien estate and say, hey, can we reference this guy from the Silmarillion? Is that okay? And then maybe they say, well, I want that McLaren. here's what it's going to cost you, and I don't know. I'm not trying to cast aspersions, but that's what it feels like. Like they can go back to them and say, "Oh, we just want this little bit of the Silmarillion. Is that okay if we throw this I don't know, this retainer of Gilgalad that's mentioned once or something like that?" Right? They can do that, but they haven't sold entire rights to entire stories in the Silmarillion or Unfinished Tales or the Histories of Middle Earth or Fall of Gondolin and all those other stories that he wrote.
Here's my question:
Did Chris Tolkien tuck his subsequent works into the Tolkien estate, or is that separate IP?
It's all in the Tolkien estate. Yeah.
Okay.
So I have to assume that when the Peter Jackson movies came out, the sales of the actual books went way up.
Yeah, they
Amazon
skyrocketed
and everywhere else, but they're not now. I'll bet these things aren't driving the book sales. And that's kind of, you would think Amazon would notice that and say, what are we doing that isn't making that happen?
Yeah. I mean, they said originally, I don't know how much they can do this, but they committed to 5 seasons. They went to the Tolkien estate and said, we commit to 5 seasons of the show. So I don't know if that's a legal thing where they can't get out of it.
Everybody thought they'd break that deal, right?
Yeah. Well, it certainly seems that way. I can't imagine how they can continue this going. I mean, we'll see what the numbers show, but what was John? You know all the numbers here. Is they lost almost 70% of viewership from the first episode to the last episode?
Yeah,
63%, I think, is what it was.
63%. That's why I go to you, John.
Didn't finish. So they watched the first episode, did not finish the season.
That's
according to Hollywood Reporter.
That, I checked out sometime when they were still in the mines of Moria, and there are people that I said, yes, I promise I'll watch the whole thing. It's a promise that I'm really not excited about.
You can break that promise. It's okay.
I couldn't. I tried. I don't know how you guys do it. Like, I don't know how the guys who review horrible shows like The Acolyte and stuff get through it. I mean, I would, consider The Ledge.
Ibuprofen.
The Hobbit is my favorite piece of fiction. I just have to say, and the thing that is missing from all of this is a clear, humble hero who doesn't want to be a hero, that gets thrown out on a journey and has to do something amazing and comes back changed. Obviously, that also happens on some level in Lord of the Rings with Frodo and Sam and all the hobbits. Everybody else also is changed in some level by the fact that basically greatness is thrust upon them. There's none of that in the Rings of Power that I've seen so far. It's Galadriel is great, and she's tolerating some insufferable men, which, of course, when they make insufferable men in Galadriel, it's actually Galadriel who comes out insufferable.
Are you sure you're not describing The Acolyte? I'm having flashbacks. I've got real deja vu here.
It's the same boring
thing. Are you sure that's
thing.
not a cat lady?
It would be something other than a cat in Tolkien, I'm sure.
The fact that the only folks I've heard that have liked any characters seem to identify with Sauron the most. Usually, when your villain is the most identifiable person, that's typically a problem.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end. We regret doing so, but well, don't worry, for there's more videos, coming up real soon, 3 times a day right here on the Pro Channel, and we can't wait to bring them to you. If you're not yet subscribed, well, consider becoming a subscriber today. Folks, we would also love it if you could like and share this video out on your favorite social media platforms and click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Comments are appreciated. Your mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not. Join a community dialogue on this topic today. All right, folks, we are on our way. We hope you are too. Go out there and make a difference in the world. We appreciate you. We see you. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.